Hello friends, grace and peace be with you today. Pray you're doing well and welcome back to the video series I like to put together. What I would like to do throughout probably the rest of this year is share with you my insights and other commentaries as we go through the book of Ezekiel. And those of you that don't know, Ezekiel is filled with prophecies of essentially it's Jerusalem's ruin. It's prophecies for what God would have for Israel. And so we're going to take time each week by going through a chapter of the book of Ezekiel. So I'm going to start out and we're going to go right on through chapter 1 today. On July 31st of my 30th year, while I was with the Judean exiles beside the Kabar River in Babylon, the heavens were opened and I saw visions of God. This happened during the 5th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity. The Lord gave this message to Ezekiel, son of Buzi, a priest, beside the Kabar River in the land of the Babylonians. And he felt the hand of the Lord take hold of him. We understand that this July 31st, this is a modern date for us to be, understand what time of the year, but in other translations, it will say the 5th day in the 4th month. And again, there's a different calendar, right? There's different times that we, relate to. And when he says, now it came to pass in my 30th year. The 30th year is a very significant time. It is when most priests would start their ministry. And it's also understand that is his age. He was 25 when he was taken into captivity. And so this is an interesting time period for all of Israel, really. And we will see why that is as we go through these prophecies. Picking back up at verse 4. As I looked, I saw a great storm coming from the north, driving before it a huge cloud that flashed with lightning and shone with brilliant light. There was fire inside the cloud, and in the middle of the fire glowed something like gleaming amber. From the center of the cloud came 4 living beings that looked human, except that each had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and their feet had hooves like those of a calf, and shone like burnished bronze. Under each of their 4 wings I could see human hands. So each of the 4 beings had 4 faces and 4 wings. The wings of each living being touched the wings of the beings beside it. Each one moved straight forward in any direction without turning around. Each had a human face in the front, the face of a lion on the right side, the face of an ox on the left side, and the face of an eagle at the back. Each had 2 pairs of outstretched wings. One pair stretched out to touch the wings of the living beings on either side of it, and the other pair covered its body. They went in whatever direction the Spirit chose, and they moved straight forward in any direction without turning around. Going back to the first paragraph there, talking about the Kabar River and just that date, I think it's interesting to note, we can look to those points and see these specific places, and it just it just gives us more evidence to the testimony of what is being written. We understand that this 5th year is representative of, it would be the time of 593 BC. And like I said, this is 5 years into Ezekiel's captivity. So he is, he says, I felt the hand of the Lord take hold of him. And as I looked, I saw a great storm coming from the north, driving before it a huge cloud that flashed with lightning and shone with brilliant light. What a strong vision! What a strong message this was, and it's really an attention getter, right? For God to say, "Hey, wake up! Don't miss this." And then seeing this vision before him. Now he sees these 4 angels, the cherubim before him, and having the figure of a man and the different body parts of the different animals. We look to the faces. It says, each had a human face in the front, the face of a lion on the right side, the face of an ox on the left side, and the face of an eagle on the back. Now, there's been, a different understanding of what those really represent. We can look at these 4 angels and we'll see the 4 faces of these angels. And we look at the face of the man representing intelligence, the face of an ox representing the willingness to serve, the face of the lion, which would represent the strength that they would have, and the face of an eagle to represent swiftness. Continuing back in verse 13. The living beings looked like bright coals of fire or brilliant torches, and lightning seemed to flash back and forth among them. And the living beings darted to and fro like flashes of lightning. As I looked at these beings, I saw 4 wheels touching the ground beside them, 1 wheel belonging to each. The wheels sparkled as if made of beryl. All 4 wheels looked alike and were made the same. Each wheel had a second wheel turning crosswise within it. The beings could move in any of the 4 directions they faced without turning as they moved. The rims of the 4 wheels were tall and frightening, and they were covered with eyes all around. When the living beings moved, the wheels moved with them. When they flew upward, the wheels went up too. The spirit of the living being was in the wheels. So wherever the spirit went, the wheels and the living beings also went. When the beings moved, the wheels moved. When the beings stopped, the wheels stopped. When the beings flew upward, the wheels rose up, for the spirit of the living beings was in the wheels. So when we see this picture of wheels, we have to understand, the context of, Israel, of Jerusalem. For us, wheels represent, the movement, right? We see mostly wheels, are mostly on cars, vehicles. It's transportation. And so we have to be careful when we apply our understanding of wheels versus what it might have been back then. Now, we would look at wheels, and it's, again, back then it would still be transportation, but there is an understanding that wheels were really, it relates to chariots. It relates to this kind of war machine type feeling. It's that turning, the constant movement. It gives us an understanding of God's omnipresence, of His judgment being upon the world, that it is never ending, and the eyes upon those world. Again, it's God's. It's again God's omnipresence. It's all seeing, all knowing. It's this constant moving. And that wherever the angels go, God's judgment, God's will goes also. That's where we see, where the angels went, the wheels moved as well. Jumping back in verse 22. Spread out above them was a surface like the sky, glittering like crystal. Beneath this surface, the wings of each living being stretched out to touch the other wings, and each had 2 wings covering its body. As they flew, their wings sounded to me like waves crashing against the shore, or like the voice of the Almighty, or like the shouting of a mighty army. When they stopped, they let down their wings. As they stood with wings lowered, a voice spoke from beyond the crystal surface above them. Above this surface was something that looked like a throne made of blue lapis lazuli. And on this throne high above was a figure whose appearance resembled a man. From what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like gleaming amber, flickering like a fire. And from his waist down, he looked like a burning flame, shining with splendor. All around him was a glowing halo like a rainbow, shining in the clouds on a rainy day. This is what the glory of the Lord looked like to me. When I saw it, I fell face down on the ground, and I heard someone's voice speaking to me. And friends, I love this because it gives us such a vivid depiction of the glory of the Lord. You know, we oftentimes, think of God, and it's this, image of an old man with the white hair and white beard, whatever it is. And I know there was studies done years ago where they would ask groups of individuals to draw God to them, and the younger they were, the more tangible the drawings would be. It would be a man, like I said, with the long robe, the long hair, a beard, and it was this older man. And as the ages of the groups were older, the drawings that they got were more esoteric. They were more ambiguous, and it was recorded that many adults were drawing just shapes and things, and it was more about what those shapes meant. So we see this depiction. We see this depiction from Ezekiel saying, on his throne high above was a figure whose appearance resembled a man. Here it goes. It is resembling a man. And he describes what he sees with that man. From what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like gleaming amber, flickering like a fire, and from his waist down he looked like burning flame, shining with splendor. All around him was a glowing halo like a rainbow, shining in the clouds on a rainy day. This is what the glory of the Lord looked like to me. Can you imagine that? Imagine that vision, that depiction. Being overwhelmed with it, he says, when I saw it, I fell face down on the ground and I heard someone's voice speaking to me. Next week, we're going to get into what that voice was speaking and really what Ezekiel's call and commission will be. But how cool this is. How cool to have this depiction recorded for us. For wherever God's glory went out, as he had a message for Ezekiel, it's quite clear that he had to come in such a powerful way. So, friends, I thank you for this time, and I pray that you are able to use this for your benefit, and hopefully we'll be able to keep going through Ezekiel. And I just pray that you're willing to go on this journey with me, and we're going to be here next week looking at Ezekiel chapter 2, and just hopefully we'll get into kind of the more of the bulk of what the prophecy that Ezekiel will be taking. So I thank you for your time. Pray that you have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.